Alright. AEW Dynamite. On April Fool's Day, no less. Should be a good one. And it was a good one. Oh, man. Coronavirus, COVID-19 keeps rolling along. And I hope wherever you're listening from, wherever you're watching from, that you are safe and you're looking after yourselves, you're practicing social distancing, you're shutting your asses and you're washing your hands. AEW Dynamite. Trent 7, or Trent as he's now known, taking on Kenny Omega in the opener. Wow. Also, by the way, I noticed that Dynamite have moved arenas. Didn't realise this. They'd moved away from the Jacksonville stadium in Florida that they were using, and they're now in an indoor arena, an undisclosed location. Not entirely aware of where it was, but I liked it. Really, really liked it. And once again, the wrestlers are back at ringside, and that's a good thing, and I really appreciate that, because what it does is it creates an independent wrestling style atmosphere, and that is a really good thing, trust me. You know, us British wrestling fans, we're obsessed with Brit Rest, we've got a great independent scene, and although there obviously wasn't nearly as many fans in there as there are at, you know, the vast majority of British independent wrestling shows, there was still a good atmosphere. The wrestlers were keen, you had the heels on one side, faces on the other. It added for a good dynamic once again. And in tough times like this, wrestling really can be a great escape, and none more so than the actual art of wrestling. And that's where we lead back to Trent and Kenny Omega going out there and putting on an absolute clinic. At what point are we going to stop and say that Trent is actually one of the better wrestlers in the world today? It's easy to forget because he's in Best Friends, because Orange Cassidy is kind of, you know, Mr. Popular in that faction, but him and Kenny Omega, obviously Kenny Omega is one of the best wrestlers in the world, especially in recent memory, and he carries a lot of cachet wherever he goes, and he's one of those kind of wrestlers, whoever he gets in the ring with, he's going to make them look tenfold better. But Trent has been around for a long time, been wrestling for 16 years, he's been through the WWE system, he's been through the independent scene, the New Japan dojo, he's pretty much done it all in terms of, you know, being a well-travelled and highly accomplished wrestler. And his match with Kenny Omega was fucking killer. This is the kind of match that if it happened at a high-level pay-per-view, like a Revolution or a All In, or if it had happened at a WrestleMania or something along those lines, people would have absolutely lost their shit. And ultimately, the only reason that people probably won't remember this long term is simply because it was on a throwaway episode of AEW Dynamite, especially during a period where, obviously, you know, difficulties with COVID-19, the whole world is starting to get into lockdown, it's starting to get very serious for a lot of people. So I absolutely commend these two guys. They went out there and killed it. And what I loved about this match was how physical it was as well. They kicked the shit out of each other, and that is a good thing. Like, I'm used to seeing Kenny Omega, especially, along with Trent, wrestle a more technical, fluid style. And these two switched gears about halfway through the match, and, you know, Trent started attacking viciously the hand of Kenny Omega, as you should, really. You know, the kayfabe or even real storyline, of course, running that Kenny Omega fractured his wrist, I believe in the tag team match at Revolution. And, you know, he went after that, and they were knocking lumps out of each other. Kenny was very physical. There was a lot of strikes, a lot of strong style involved here. Very typical of two guys who've worked for the Japanese system. Really loved it. Really loved this. This was the perfect opener. And for once, I felt like the women's division got a fair crack of it. Hikaru Shida versus Anna Jay. Anna Jay making her debut, apparently highly accomplished, coming out of the Nightmare Collective, being one of these individuals that's been trained by QT Marshall, who is a very accomplished wrestler. Don't be fooled by the Carlito gimmick with the cheap apple and stuff. Like, he's good. He is good. He knows what he's doing. And from a technical standpoint, QT Marshall is very, very good. And he's a perfect kind of guy to have backstage, working the scenes, and also, you know, putting in a shift at a time when not all the wrestlers are available because of travel restrictions, etc. It's quite useful to have a guy like QT Marshall around. He's a good technician. He can go out there. He's a scientific wrestler, and he can go out there and have a decent match and help hold down the fort. And guys like that provide the engine room for the company. So, here comes Anna Jay making her debut on Dynamite against, obviously, Hikaru Shida, who is right now most definitely Flavour of the Month, if not Flavour of the Year. I've gone on record as saying I think that Hikaru Shida is naturally the next progression and the next opponent when it comes to the Women's Championship, which is, of course, held by Nyla Rose. I love her gimmick. I love her style. There's nothing too fancy about it. There's nothing too over the top about it either. Someone like Statlander, for instance, comes out, claims to be an alien, doesn't really match up to the gimmick and the portrayal that we want. Whereas Hikaru Shida is very simple. This strong style Japanese Joshi warrior. And her match with Anna Jay was physical. And yet competitive as well. She didn't just run her over. She certainly had the lion's share of offense, but Anna Jay was afforded an opportunity to show off what she could do. And this is something I love about AEW. Now, if this had been WWE, don't get me wrong. When you're trying to build stars, and obviously when you have somebody, like for instance, a really good example is Aleister Black. Last couple of weeks he's been against these random jobbers, and they get in minimal to no offense and get black masked and beaten inside a minute, more often. And that's fine, I get what they're trying to do. But on the flip side of things, AEW is very much more based around the athletic sense of wrestling. Yeah, they absolutely provide sports entertainment, but there's clearly an onus of we are going to provide a stronger wrestling content. And this is a good message to send. If you are, the next Anna Jay, the next potential independent star that could break through. I saw that Sugar Dunkerton appeared on AEW, which was fantastic on AEW Dark. This is a great message to be sent, that if you come here, we will give you an opportunity. And not only that, we'll give you an opportunity to shine. We won't just have you in the system, or, you gotta pay your dues, brother, by turning up and, we'll give you $50 if you go out there and get your fucking head kicked in. No. Here's an actual opportunity, a genuine opportunity to go out there and wrestle one of the better women's wrestlers in the world right now and have a highly competitive match. Just because Anna Jay isn't regarded as a star on TV doesn't mean she can't be in the future. And ultimately, this works so much better for everyone involved. First of all, Hikaru Shida has much more competitive wrestling matches, which means she's going to feel fresher. She's going to feel like a better athlete. And Anna Jay is going to have the opportunity to actually, on a national TV platform, no less, show off her stuff, show off what she has, her resume in wrestling. And this may open a huge amount of doors potentially in the future, hopefully when COVID-19 subsides and everything can get back to normal in our daily lives. She's the kind of individual who's going to prosper from this kind of thing. It might open more bookings. It might even lead to opportunities working for AEW on a more regular basis. She had a great look, very beautiful woman, but very physical, very powerful. I really enjoyed this match, and I really appreciate the fact that AEW, unlike the big machine of WWE, and this isn't a crack at WWE, this is simply me saying that it's nice to see something different. And it's nice to see that when these people are brought in for the one-time deal or to make an appearance, that they're actually getting a fair crack at the whip. Because if you're going to go to all that effort and expense to throw somebody out there, then, get your money's worth, really. And that's what AEW has done. I thought this was an excellent match. I think Anna Jay has got a lot of potential. She's got a fantastic look. Great ring gear. Obviously, very accomplished in the ring as well. She wasn't just a very pretty face. She knew what she was doing. And in the ring with Hikaru Shida, you can't really go wrong. Very strong, very powerful, and yet somehow very smooth at the same time as well. I really enjoyed it. Thought it was fantastic. Really, really appreciated this. Great women's match. Much more of this, please, because this is the kind of stuff that you can hang your hat on. Jake Hager and Jon Moxley is being billed as a rivalry as well. In just 2 weeks' time, I believe, they're going to have a no-holds-barred match. Call me a bit cynical. this is one of the few things I'm not interested in. I like Jon Moxley, and I have no problem with him being champion. I think he's a good guy to have as your marquee champion. A lot of people might have a whinge and say, oh, it's another WWE guy, but ultimately these guys have the marquee. They have the drawing power. If you put Jon Moxley on a marquee, he's probably going to sell more tickets than Jungle Boy is, and that's just the way it is, I'm afraid. You have to accept that. There is a hierarchy in wrestling, and ultimately, if you draw in more fans and make more money for a company, then yeah, you should be put in a more prominent position. That's just how it's always worked since the beginning of time. It's no different in a working environment. The people who work hardest should have the opportunity to earn the most. It's as simple as that. I don't care about it. I really don't. I don't think I want to see Jake Hager wrestling that much. And if I do, I don't want to see him in matches against high-level marquee talents like the champion. He's supposed to... I get it. He's the hitman. He's the heavy hitter. And obviously, Jon Moxley, the whole gimmick is going to be that he's going to run through everyone to get back at Jericho. And that's not bad because that keeps the rivalry going. And in that time, they can then build more credible contenders on the flip side of things. But yeah, I find Jake Hager to be a bit boring, and I was there for his debut, and I was excited to see him, and I popped, but, from a long-term position, he is nothing more than just that cool, heavy-hitting guy who sort of sits in the background. So putting him at the forefront and having him as the representation of the inner circle is not really my cup of tea. But hey, prove me wrong. Maybe you think otherwise. Maybe you think that this is a good idea. Maybe you're excited about Jon Moxley versus Jake Hager. And if you are, leave a comment down below. Make sure you like, subscribe, tag your friends, get involved, and most importantly, hit the little bell icon so you can get notifications because we are churning out the content right now. But for my money, Jon Moxley versus Jake Hager, simply put, it's not getting my money. It's not a match that I would pay money to see. And if you were putting this on a pay-per-view and you said to me that we're going to try and sell a pay-per-view based on the strength of this match, I certainly would not buy that pay-per-view. That's just my humble opinion. It doesn't mean I hate it. It's just not my cup of tea. It's unpopular opinion time, I'm afraid, ladies and gentlemen. We got the debut of Lance Archer as he basically ran over Marco Stunt. Yes. Yeah, Lance Archer, the highly touted star of New Japan Wrestling, the Murder Hawk, the 6'7" master of Everybody Dies. He is a beast, a leviathan. Some people might remember him as Lance Hoyt. He is on fire. So, the gimmick is, of course, Jake Roberts, who, by the way, cut another magnificent promo talking about just how, we don't play games. His promos are still some of the best ever. He was a master of the promo back in the day, and he still is now. But Marco Stunt, really? I don't have a problem. Jim Cornette thinks that Marco Stunt shouldn't be allowed to wrestle, full stop. And I've had a lot of people who share that sentiment. That's fine. They're entitled to that opinion. I can understand why it would certainly be jarring. But seriously, Marco Stunt, he's 4'2", whatever, and he's wrestling a 6'7" Leviathan. Now, don't get me wrong, I appreciate the argument that, he was playing around with him and toying with him, but I'm sorry, you have to have a certain level of realism in wrestling. You can't suspend your disbelief entirely. That's not really viable, especially not nowadays where people are far more discerning. And I'm supposed to believe at any point that Marco Stunt can even get any offense. Some people said, he was deliberately toying with him. But, come on. There was a point where he hit him with an enziguri. And Lance Archer sold offense from Marco Stunt. And WrestleMania will love this because I know she's not a huge fan of the cursing. Marco Stunt giving offense to Lance Archer, which he in turn sells? Go fuck yourself. Absolutely not. Ridiculous. Marco Stunt should be wrestling in a cruiserweight division, and even then he should be an underdog. I would love to see him enact some form of cruiserweight division, and he would be fantastic as that kind of, that Spike Dudley role. Certainly not that Rey Mysterio role, because it's just been done to death, and ultimately he's no Rey Mysterio. But I'm sorry, I know it sounds offensive, but he's a joke. He is. Marco Stunt's a bit of a joke. I don't have a problem with him as a wrestler. I think he's a wonderful wrestler. I think he's very talented. I certainly don't go all in on and subscribe to the theory that he shouldn't be allowed to wrestle because he's too small, etc., etc., because that's just bullshit. People have all kinds of different things that they've overcome. And I know Jericho talked about, Rey Mysterio was small. Everyone doubted him, and he ended up being a world champion. And I was small, and, all these different guys are small. Yeah, you were small. You weren't a freaking midget. No offense, but he is literally a borderline dwarf. Come on, man. And he's out there with Lance Archer. Lance Archer should have literally fucking kicked him in the face and pinned him immediately and said, get the fuck out. And also, what annoys me is the story is, don't waste our fucking time. That's what Jake Roberts is saying. Don't waste our fucking time. So, Marco Stunt is fed to him first. Also, Cody Rhodes. Obviously, we're leading towards Cody versus Lance Archer. There's a lot of insinuation of that. Now, Colt Cabana was on commentary for this because TNT Championship, of course, he's going to face him in the quarterfinals. Sorry, Colt, but that's basically as far as you go with your lovely undefeated streak, brother. But, come on. There's loopholes here. And the idea is that Cody's like, oh yeah, you're going to have to earn it. What? By going through Marco Stunt? What you're basically saying is that you fed Marco Stunt to Lance Archer. That's not a very face thing to do. Piss poor. You could have at least cut a promo beforehand where Marco Stunt's like, yeah, I asked for this match. I want to prove myself against the biggest and the baddest. Try and make some sort of storyline out of it. Not that he just comes ambling out and then somehow gets a semi-competitive match out of a monster. Absolutely not. I did love the suplex, though. I will say that. The suplex was fucking shit on when he just launched him across the ring. I genuinely thought he was going to end up, back in Jacksonville, Florida, in the old arena. He threw him that fucking far. But ultimately, absolutely fucking not. Lance Archer should have murdered him, and that should have been that. But hey, it's an exhibition, if nothing else, for Lance Archer. So, looking on the positive side of things, it was great to see him wrestle. It was great to see him make his debut, and it was also great to see him show off some of his power, even if it was against a person who weighs arguably less than one of my shits. So yeah, it is what it is. The Brody Lee promo was more shade being thrown at Vince McMahon. Vince McMahon doesn't like yawning either. He sees that as a weakness too. And Brody Lee just going, "Are you weak?" and criticising him for that was absolutely phenomenal. And that obviously led into the tag team match that came up straight after that. 8 and 9. Fuck off. That annoyed me as well. So, two goobers. This whole thing, the whole premise of this was so that Brody Lee could basically come out and be the angry dad who fucking murders people. Now, to be fair, I've asked for that in the storylines. If anyone's been listening to my reviews of AEW, I've said it would be cool to have Brody Lee kind of execute a lot of these people, send a message to them, make an example of them. But, yeah, no. 8 and 9, couple of jobbers in Mars, lose to QT Marshall, and, Dustin Rhodes. I was about to say Goldust. Who cares? I know it sounds really harsh. I don't care. Why do I give a shit about watching these scrubs dressed like security guard extras from WWE? They're called 8 and 9. I mean, I would have rather had 7 of 9, frankly. And here comes 8 and 9. They get squashed by QT Marshall and Dustin Rhodes, who are a little bit long in the tooth. At least Dustin Rhodes is. Although, still, don't get me wrong, still an excellent wrestler. But come on, he's definitely in his mid-50s. He's definitely in the twilight of his career. Flanked by, obviously, Brandy Rhodes as well. It pissed me off as well, because commentary were hyping them up as, they're doing really well. They're making a claim for the tag team division. Fuck off. Again, I don't want to see these two scrubs getting anywhere near the rest of the division. Ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. Don't get me wrong, Dustin Rhodes is a legend, and he absolutely deserves to be in the Hall of Fame and everything else, but I don't want to see Dusty Rhodes and QT Marshall making a run at the tag titles when you've got the Lucha Brothers and Proud and Powerful and everybody else. Now, I know wrestlers aren't available, so it's very difficult to really make some sort of like, because we don't know, for all we know, none of those tag teams are available. They might be quite limited on who they can use, but, well, they can obviously use the Lucha Brothers, for starters, who would murder these two. So, yeah, I thought it was a point in the segment, and then Brody Lee just comes out and powerbombs one of the poor sods. Meh, not bothered. Really not bothered. I just thought it felt a little weak sauce, to be honest. But, hey, it is what it is, and... Oh, if nothing else, I am loving Brody Lee throwing shade at Vince McMahon, and I'm loving it even more that all the WWE apologists are triggered by this and are trying to claim that it's got nothing to do with Vince McMahon. Come on. You know better than that. Okay, can we talk about Chris Jericho in his pool with a little bit of the bubbly? And he gets a visit from Vanguard 1. So it's April Fool's Day. He's talking about the biggest fools he's ever known in the Elite. And he gets a visit from Matt Hardy's drone, Vanguard 1, who doesn't say anything. He just tips up to just float around. Jericho tries to apologise to him, but can't say sorry. So he says, which I thought was brilliant. He then offers Vanguard 1 a drone-sized Elite t-shirt. Inner Circle t-shirt, which is basically, it's a bit like the Bullet Club thing where, it's like, oh, come on, join the club. It's been done to death with NWO and that, but it never fails. It's great fun. He hangs it on Vanguard 1, who then fucks off. Which infuriates Jericho, and Jericho then persists in trying to... Oh, this is gold. He screams at him, throws his bottle of champagne at him, and then basically goads him and says, like, well, fuck you then. The whole thing's great, but it's topped off by release the hounds, and all of Jericho's dogs come out, which is this random assortment of dogs like that you've never seen before. A little bit alarming, by the way, that he said release the hounds and all these dogs were released by his enclosed pool area. A little bit awkward, but never mind. he just... These little dogs are like barking at the drone, and then the drone pisses off and he's like, come back here, you stupid piece of shit. It's just brilliant. Absolutely fucking brilliant. I adored this. I really did. Almost as much as I adored Sammy Guevara's entrance, by the way, where he was absolutely loving the female attention. Penelope Ford's recording him on her phone, maybe taking photos. He's hitting on Britt Baker as well, which is really funny because Adam Cole, baby. I love Sammy Guevara. He's so good, the Spanish God. I still can't get over the Jericho segment, though. That is just money. But what a main event for AEW's Dynamite this week. Sammy Guevara, the Spanish God, the most beautiful man in all of professional wrestling, tagging up with my boy Sean Spears. I'm so excited to see Sean Spears. For anyone who's been listening to our podcast long term, they will know that Sean Spears is either loved or despised, depending on which side you fall on. Now, I think Sean Spears is incredible. I think he's wildly underrated as well. I absolutely adore his heel nonsense, his heel shenanigans. However, Steve, who is normally my frequent co-host, he gave Sean Spears his Worst Wrestler of the Year award last year, which I'm pretty sure was done just to trigger me. So, if you're listening, Steve, fuck you. But yeah, Sammy Guevara and Sean Spears versus Darby Allin and Cody. I mean, you couldn't really ask for more. Can I just say, it's the little things that I love about wrestling. The little things, like the interactions. So the heels are on one side. And I love the fact Sammy Guevara, no handshakes. Just little elbow bumps, because obviously COVID-19. Just that little nod to it, but having that good time. And, I just love the fact that these guys have fun. That's something that... Do you know what? I watch WWE as well. And I like WWE. I'm not an anti-WWE guy. But there are times when I watch WWE and you can just tell that the heart's not in it. You know, when you can just tell that someone's not enjoying what they're doing? And I get that vibe sometimes when I watch WWE. Not from everybody, but there are certain things where you just think, yeah, you know, and you could see that with guys like Luke Harper, for instance, stuff like that. They go out there and they give it their all, but you could just tell, you could just see it in the back of their minds that there was this mentality of, oh, fuck's sake, like, what have I got to do to get where I need to be? These guys are really having a good time. They're enjoying themselves. You could really see that, you know, in the main event, the way Cody kind of comes springing out of the entranceway, the way Sammy Guevara is giving his buddies elbow bumps and flirting with Britt Baker, when Cody throws his t-shirt into the crowd, and I love it, Orange Cassidy just kind of goes, tries to grab and goes, whatever. Those sort of things are what really make it so much fun. I really enjoyed that. I also really love the fact that Darby Allin's sitting there looking like some moody teenager, and Cody's like, yeah, come on, baby, we're gonna have a great time. And he's just like, yeah, great, go away. Really liked it. Also, Dasha Fuentes, not only is she exceptional to look at, she did a great job on the ring announcing, and I thought that was worthy of a shout out as well. But let's get to this main event, because this was an absolute stonker, as you would expect. I loved how not seriously they took this main event. Like, don't get me wrong, the wrestling was great, and, you know, they upheld the majority of kayfabe, but, like, so much going on in this main event. And this was, you know, I've just been speaking about how cool it is to see wrestlers who enjoy themselves and have fun, and these guys are out there, you know, putting on a great main event. All four of these guys are really good wrestlers. I think Shawn Spears is so wickedly underrated, I really do. And you know, Shawn Spears and Sammy Guevara at one point are doing stalling vertical suplexes on Darby Allin and gambling on who can hold him up the longest, and the heels are counting, and then Cody gets thrown into the crowd, so he gets wrenched by Jimmy Havoc, and Britt Baker's got this psychotic look on her face as she's beating him with a shoe. It's just, the whole thing is just so much fun. Brandy stealing Guevara's phone when he's trying to, like, hit on her at ringside, and then freaking out with joy like a young teenager when she catches Cody's belt, which, by the way, is probably saving him a lot of money, not having to lob that into a working audience. He can reuse that one, which is great. But, you know, still at the spine of this was world-class wrestling from some of the best talents that this company has to offer. Darby Allin, mate, when he gets going, that pace in the ring, that he's just high intensity, and he's so exciting. One thing I really love, there was a little spot in this match where Darby Allin went for a suicide dive on Shawn Spears, and because of the size differential, he caught him and then just swung him around and smashed him into the barrier. And I thought to myself, that is exactly what should have been going down in the Lance Archer and Marco Stunt match. There's two guys who just get it. You know, they just get wrestling so well. They are great minds for it. And by the way, Sammy Guevara's missile drop kick to Darby Allin on the outside, that looked fucking savage. These guys, when you consider, right, that there's what 10, 12 people at ringside, you know, the Gun Club and Britt Baker and a few others, and these motherfuckers are out there doing these insane missile drop kicks to the barrier, powerbombing people into pillars, you know, tope suicides, con helos, just throwing it all out there for the TV audience and for the people, you know, in that very small arena as well, building, whatever you want to call it. You can't help but admire these guys. I had a great time watching it. And by the way, Sammy Guevara and Shawn Spears, sneaky good fun as a tag team. And, you know, honestly, Darby Allin's fucking coffin drop, where he just scooted up the pole, which, by the way, I've seen him do before. I think it might have been Bar Wrestling or Beyond Wrestling. He's done this before, and you thought it was crazy then, and it's crazy now. Utterly insane. Fucking awesome. Like, I'm running out of superlatives to describe how much I like Darby Allin. He's so freaking good. Honestly, I could watch him wrestle for hours. He's just electric from the get-go. Honestly, by the end of this match, these guys were just pulling everything out, and Sean Spears gets the sneaky little roller. I think everything about this was perfect. Sean Spears getting a win, so crucial, so important. But then on top of it, building to this TNT Championship tournament, of course, Darby Allin versus Cody in the first round, one of the first, I believe, the first quarterfinal. What a match that's going to be. And, you know, after losing the match, Darby pretty much cold clocks Cody in the middle of the ring, and that's where they end AEW Dynamite. And I love that. Simple, easygoing storytelling, nothing overly convoluted, no ridiculously over the top nonsense. Well, at least not from these guys. I mean, Jericho and Vanguard won. That's a different story. But I loved it. I thought this was excellent, really good. And once again, I was able to sit down, watch AEW Dynamite in a tumultuous and difficult time for so many people, and just get a level of entertainment that no other wrestling show is giving me right now. It's not me sitting here saying, oh, AEW is pissing all over WWE, blah, blah, blah. I just think what they're producing and the way they're producing it speaks to me far more than, say, Raw or SmackDown. And that's not to say that Raw and SmackDown hasn't been good, because Raw this week I thought was actually excellent in terms of promos and stuff. But again, AEW knocking out of the park. Thank you to everyone involved. Thank you for providing us with entertainment in such a difficult time. You know, obviously there are certain things I do and don't like about wrestling, and I voice my opinions on here, and you're getting an honest opinion whether you fucking like it or not. God damn it! But ultimately, you know, we're here to entertain. I'm here to entertain, and we don't scrimp on any opinions, and we certainly don't fucking hide from what we really feel when it comes to wrestling. But the bottom line is, this was really entertaining. This was 2 hours where I was able to take it easy, and as a lot of people may know, the death toll is getting pretty rapid and pretty high in England and Britain overall, and of course across the world, you know. And this was an opportunity just to kind of forget about it, you know, step away from that part of social media, step away from that side of mainstream media and news, and take yourselves into a different world. The world of AEW Dynamite, and it delivered, as it always does. Fantastic. Thought this was much better than last week. Last week was a little bit shaky for me in places. Still a good show overall. No, don't get me wrong. Still a very positive experience, but this was right back on track and much more in keeping with the show that they did a couple of weeks ago. Really, really enjoyed this. Really great fun. And ultimately, was a joy to review it for you guys. So hopefully you enjoy this. Don't forget to like, subscribe. If you have any wrestling buddies who you think might like listening to us speak candidly about wrestling, then please, please, please tag them. Let them know that they can get involved. Send us your opinions. Leave comments below so that we can discuss things on future episodes. And most importantly, let us know what you want to hear from the Wrestle Plug next. Got a lot of content coming up, guys. We're going to be covering WrestleMania this weekend. We got a couple of special videos because, of course, the majority of our content is, you know, homegrown, our own release content. We try and offer a few cheeky uploads from shows and things like that, but the majority of our content, a lot of graft and a lot of time from myself personally goes into that, and I'm really appreciative of all the feedback we get from you. So thank you so much for getting involved. Thank you so much for taking the time to listen, to watch our content. Make sure you check it out. We've got so much more coming through. We got loads of wrestler interviews that are coming as well. Some of the biggest stars in British independent wrestling are going to be swinging by the Wrestle Plug to have a little chat with me, and I'm really excited about that too. So please, 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 there is not a better time to get on board with Wrestle Plug. It's at Wrestle Plug on all social media. Once again, don't forget to like, subscribe, hit the bell icon so that you can get a notification whenever we upload a video, and believe me, there's a lot more coming from us. But until then, ladies and gentlemen, please look after yourselves. Be sure to wash your hands, be sure to shut your asses, and most importantly, try and put a smile on your faces, try and look after your loved ones, and we will all get through this, and we will see you on the other side for more nonsense from the Wrestle Plug.